I suppose I should probably start this all off by talking about Portland. And, this is actually, I'll give you kind of an idea. So the Proud Boys, we kind of talked about it last week. So the Proud Boys, they are a pro-Trump organization. They were started as a joke by conservative libertarian / commentator. He wouldn't call himself conservative, although most of his opinions are definitely on the conservative right, but he identifies more as a libertarian. Gavin McInnes. So this all started as a joke. I think it was on Anthony Cumia's show. And they started the Proud Boys. They were talking about how it'd be kind of funny to have this super silly name. And basically it's just a men's club. Okay. This is a men's club that gets together, that they go to drink beer. They hang out together, that sort of thing. Membership is pretty much open to anybody. They have their stated rules. And it just so happens that they tend to be pro-Trump. Okay. That's it. They've got a couple of other things that they have in their rules. They advertise on their website, crystal clear, that all races and sexualities are welcome. It's just for men only. Okay. But 30% of their membership is minority. Now, the reason that this is important is because they have been smeared as a white supremacist hate group. And they're not. They're not a white supremacist group at all. They are not an anti-gay group. They have many members that are gay. They're just a pro-Trump men's club. That's it. Now, what ended up happening is because Gavin McInnes was tied to this, and Gavin McInnes has been falsely accused. We interviewed Cassandra Fairbanks about this when Gavin McInnes was finally deplatformed. And I asked her a question. I said, look, aside from the president, this could be the most slandered person in America. And she agreed with that statement. He's constantly been lied about. He's been called a white supremacist. His wife and his children are Native American. He's been called a nationalist. Well, he's Canadian, of Scottish descent. None of it makes sense, right? But they don't like him. And anybody who's spent 5 minutes listening to Gavin McInnes will know that he is not the demon that people proclaim him to be. But because he was responsible for kind of founding the Proud Boys, he was propelled as their leader, but he wasn't their leader. And he's the first one to tell you, he's like, there is no leader. It's just a group. It's a club. We get together. And that's all there is. Give you kind of an idea. A lot of you are a part of groups on Facebook. There's somebody who started the page, but there isn't a leadership structure to a lot of those places. And especially if they meet up and get together and that sort of thing. So that's kind of where this all got going. Well, then what ended up happening is because Gavin McInnes was associated with it, Antifa started attacking Proud Boys events. So the Proud Boys would go to a bar or they'd have an event. Gavin McInnes was going to be doing a show in New York. This is where the NYC 9 case comes in. For those of you not familiar with that, Gavin McInnes was going to do a reenactment. There was a Japanese person. I don't remember the names of all of this. I blogged about it, and a lot of you actually really enjoy the blog post. There was a Japanese person, this is in the 50s or 60s, who used a katana to assassinate a Japanese communist. And he did it on stage, live on television, and everybody saw it. Okay. It's a very interesting bit of Japanese history as this was all going down. And it's a very interesting read if you haven't had an opportunity to go ahead and look into this story. So Gavin McInnes was doing a reenactment of that at a Republican club in New York. Well, Antifa got the dates wrong, and Antifa decided to go and harass everybody at this club, including an elderly woman. And Gavin McInnes wasn't there because they got the dates wrong. So then they put a note on the door and they said, we're not here for peace or whatever. And, we're here to take action and we're going to come back for you and that sort of thing. So 1 or 2 days later, when Gavin McInnes was actually doing the show, Antifa was there. They attacked some people that were not associated with the Proud Boys or Gavin McInnes whatsoever, including a little old Jewish lady. They threw a bunch of things when the Proud Boys and Gavin McInnes came out, and they were just making their way to a bar, a local bar, because they're all based in New York, local bar that they were going to go to. They threw urine on them, bottles of urine, glass bottles of urine. They threw rocks. They threw a bunch of other things, and some fights broke out. At one point, Antifa jumped a member of the Proud Boys. Now, you have to understand something. This is all on camera. I'm not giving you my interpretation of what happened, okay? The Proud Boys responded in kind, and they beat the tar out of these guys. Antifa lost the fight. The police are called. It's a whole thing. And what the police then asked, they asked the Proud Boys if they wanted to file charges. The Proud Boys said, no, let's just leave it as mutual combat. They asked Antifa if they wanted to file charges. And Antifa's response was, and this is on video, F you pig. Okay? So this is all with the NYC 9 case. Nobody wanted to file any charges. So they didn't. The police said, all right, mutual combat, it's over. You guys go your way. You guys go your way. Don't do it again. Well, the next day, the mayor of New York decided that he wanted to charge the Proud Boys with instigating this thing, even though they didn't start it. Now, you have to understand something. The police even said that Antifa started this. So the mayor forced the police to arrest members of a group that did not instigate anything. And that group was only attacked because Gavin McInnes was a member, and Antifa and the radical left have identified Gavin McInnes as a white supremacist, even though he is not. So that kind of was the flashpoint for a lot of this. There were instances where Proud Boys showed up at counter protests against Antifa and things like that, but this was pretty much the flashpoint for all of that. So now you've got the Proud Boys who have consistently said, we need to get the media to pay attention to Antifa. We know that New Jersey has labeled them a domestic terrorist organization. We know that the FBI has said that Antifa uses domestic terrorist tactics. We know that the mayor of Berkeley, who used to support Antifa, wants to declare them as a gang. And we know that other places in the country are now really strongly considering adding a label to Antifa because they're clearly not a peaceful organization. They are a militant organization that uses violence. Members of Antifa have attacked police officers. They've consistently attacked members of the press, in spite of the fact that the press has been apologetic to them and has really kind of carried their water. Now, I thought that anytime you had a group of people that attacked members of the press, that group was supposed to be vilified by the press, and yet the press is not vilifying them. The press is actually excusing their behavior. You had one member of Antifa stab a police horse repeatedly, for crying out loud. You now have not one, but 2 domestic terrorist attacks associated with members of Antifa. The Charlottesville violence was started by Antifa, and the police on the ground there have made that crystal clear. It was Antifa who started it. They were putting quick dry cement in soda cans and throwing that. They instigated the violence in Charlottesville. We all know how that ended. So this is a track record going back years of Antifa starting these violent encounters, not including, I haven't even really mentioned Berkeley, okay? The violence in Berkeley is kind of where this all birthed. This is a violent organization. If you want to label them as domestic terrorists, that would be an accurate description based on the dictionary definition. If you wanted to be like the mayor of Berkeley and say that they are a gang, that would also be accurate. This is a violent group of people who have attacked repeatedly, used violence repeatedly, have advocated violence repeatedly, have excused violence repeatedly, had at one point a plot to derail trains in one state in order to go ahead and kill people. This is not your normal group of political activists that are peaceful. That's not what Antifa is about. So the Proud Boys have been desperate to get attention on Antifa and their activity. So the Proud Boys, they had an encounter with Antifa in Oregon. There is a bar in Oregon that is an Antifa bar. It's a well-known Antifa bar. Some members of the Proud Boys went to that bar outside. Again, this is all on video, and kind of antagonized Antifa members. Now, with that said, there ended up being things thrown by Antifa, things thrown by the Proud Boys, some mutual combat fights where actually individuals were squaring up. It wasn't a free-for-all out in front. And there was just a whole host of things that happened. Now, in that particular circumstance, you can see members of the Proud Boys and members of Antifa instigating various events of violence. The problem is that the mayor of Portland only arrested and charged members of the Proud Boys, and then they charged the leader of Patriot Prayer, who is on camera not doing anything at all. So why is it that they chose to, again, only arrest one side, which is what happened in New York? So the Proud Boys decided that they were going to put a rally together in Portland. And they were just going to do basically a walk over a bridge with some flags. That's kind of it. and they were going to expose Antifa for what they were. And the Proud Boys did just that. This is a tiny little thing. The Proud Boys did their thing and they left. They weren't even there. Now, there were some Trump supporters that showed up at various places in Portland, and they were routinely and roundly attacked by members of Antifa. If you follow my Facebook page, I posted just a fraction of the video that came out of that. Then this is video of members of Antifa attacking people from behind, trying to mug a woman, trying to attack a young girl. All of these things using concrete. They smuggled concrete in there. They were hitting people with hammers. They were hitting people, obviously, with pepper spray and bear mace and a whole bunch of other weapons and things of that nature. Now, none of these people that I'm aware of were any members of the Proud Boys. It appears that Antifa did not tangle with the Proud Boys at all during the Proud Boys' little march. And the Proud Boys have declared a public relations victory as a result of this. And the reason that they did that is they didn't do anything. They just went on a little walk. And Antifa shut down a city for a whole day with violence. 13 people were arrested, all of them Antifa, every single one of them. Numerous videos of them attacking innocent people. There were some videos of members who were anti-Antifa, I should say, instigating altercations as well. None of them were associated with the Proud Boys, none. And the whole point of this was to get the entire country to focus on Antifa because they've not covered them accurately. Well, that appears to have happened. It appears to have been a success. It was a disaster over the weekend. Without a doubt, it was a complete disaster. And Antifa looks horrible. They've attacked numerous buses. They hit people with hammers. And again, it's all caught on camera. If you didn't see any of this, go to facebook.com/Casey the host. Scroll down on my timeline. I posted several videos and several pictures from what happened in Portland over the weekend. By the way, I want to thank many people on my Discord server who posted some of those as well. I took some of those as well as some from other sources. I appreciate the support and the help on Discord. So thank you for that. This is who they are. And so the Proud Boys said, mission accomplished. We did exactly what we set out to do. I'm also going to go ahead and read you a quote from Gavin McInnes before this thing happened, just to kind of illustrate that this was always the plan, was not to engage, not to get into an argument or fight with Antifa, but to let Antifa be who Antifa is, which is a violent, radical, militant organization. We've got more coming up. News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel.